Shri Matre Namaha, Shri Rama Raksha Sarva Jagat Raksha. Before getting into the topic, please like, share and subscribe to the channel so you motivate us in bringing out the sacred content to you all. Today I'm going to talk about a very special and an important topic, so listen very carefully, okay? So here I have pointed out the Prana Kundalini or the individual Kundalini. So for the sake of understanding, I have named it myself, so it's not like the authentic book written names, okay? These names I have given it myself for your for making you understand, for the better understanding of the people who are listening to this. I have named it myself. So if you are expecting, if those of you who are experts and those of you who are expecting that you have to have book written special words, no, I'm sorry, because I talk based on my own experiences and also I talk based on what I feel like, okay? I mostly like want to put it more authentically rather than reading books and doing gathering information and all those things. So this is like more, I have not read any kind of a Kundalini book till now. I have listened to people on YouTube, because whenever I go through some experience, before that experience I always come across, before or after that experience I always come across something, some synchronicity or some source, something which will help me in understanding my own process betterly. So this is my own created words, so I don't know how much accurate they are, but then it will be easier for you to understand. So that's why I have named it or labeled it in such a way, okay? So now here down I have, and these three things which I have drawn here, they are like snakes, okay? I don't want to draw perfect diagrams now. I want to focus more on explaining you the concept. So that's why these three are like snakes, okay? The first snake, which is downward snake, it is like a Prana Kundalini or individual Kundalini. So I'll talk about the Prana Kundalini and individual Kundalini now. So this Prana Kundalini or individual Kundalini, this is that Kundalini for which you have so many stories all over. You easily get information about, yes, you don't that easily get, but yeah, you will get if you are in the ascension journey or a Kundalini awakening journey. If you are in the Kundalini awakening journey, you will definitely come across this kind of a story, which is of that of Prana Kundalini or individual Kundalini, okay? This story is mostly is there in so many books or online, here and there, everywhere, okay? It's like everywhere. Whenever an individual enters a Kundalini awakening journey, they'll definitely come across this process, because this is the very regularly seen process. This is the most commonly seen process, okay? But the above processes, which is the other two snakes, that is very rare, okay? So I'm not saying that it only happens to certain individuals. It is, yeah, it is rare, but it happens, and those of them who had gone through this, maybe they will not even say this, okay? They won't even say this. They are not in they have enlightened, they might be enlightened beings, or they have awakened so much that they don't feel that need to share about these things, maybe in the olden days, or it might be through Guru Mukha, or they will share these knowledge from person to person. It's like from Guru to Shishya transmission of the oral knowledge, okay? Maybe in the olden days, okay? Maybe there are people who have gone through this, yeah, they are people who have gone through this for sure, but maybe they did not the knowledge about these things is not that readily available, of the knowledge of the about two snakes, which but the knowledge about the below snake, which is the Prana Kundalini or the individual Kundalini, is available for those of them who are in the Kundalini awakening journey. And most of the people nowadays, since the time have changed and most of the people have gone through the Kundalini awakening journey, so whatever the people talk about the Kundalini awakening journey, so they mostly talk about this Prana Kundalini or the individual Kundalini, okay? So this Prana Kundalini or individual Kundalini is that Kundalini which is at the base of the spine, which rises from your Muladhara to the Sahasrara, okay? Which rise, okay? Which is ascending, okay? This process is called Arohana, okay? So I named it as Arohana. So why Arohana? Because it is ascent, okay? Ascending Kundalini. Kundalini is in ascent state, okay? So that's why I have named it as Arohana. So if I am talking, if I am bringing this word Arohana, then it means that I am talking about the Kundalini ascent. So you have to remember that this is the down to top awakening. So this down to top awakening, I have named it as Arohana, okay? So whenever you go through arohana, what will happen? Your kundalini, mostly, naturally, if it awakens naturally, and if it is not awake, if it is not going in some other channels or etc., it is awakening properly. Okay, so that proper awakening, what happens in that proper awakening is you start with your central sushumna channel, and then from the base of the spine to the then you move up to the sahasrara through the central sushumna channel. Okay, this, if you move to the central channel but not to the other channels. Okay, other left and right channels or ida pingla, no. Okay, you are moving from, okay, I'm not talking about the kundalini moving in the other channels, or I'm not talking about the prana shakti here. Prana shakti is again different thing, different concept, entirely different thing. Okay, so I'm not talking about the prana shakti. So yeah, kundalini is also called as prana shakti, but it is not, the prana shakti, this is not some energy. This is complete kundalini, your complete individual snake, individual kundalini power. Okay, when that individual kundalini power, it is making an ascent through the central sushumna from the muladhara to the sahasrara, it is called as prana kundalini. Okay, so this prana kundalini awakening happened for me, this arohana happened for me during 2021. Okay, so 2020 I was completely crying. So before, there is a stage where pre-kundalini awakening stage comes. Okay, so when my kundalini awakening happened in 2021, but before that I had a process called as pre-kundalini awakening stage. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you in detail, okay, sequentially, what all happened and how it happened, so that those of them who are going through the process, or in future those of them who will go through these steps in their process, it will be helpful for them. Okay, so when I was in the pre-kundalini awakening stage, what happened is I was experiencing dark night of soul, and I was experiencing some kind of different energies, and I was experiencing something which is supernatural. Okay, so I was a very logical kind of a person, very scientific mind kind of a person, very practical person, very someone who is very much into the science, because I belong to the science background, medical background. So I was so much into that kind of a medical, a science kind of orientation. My mind was like that. I always used to think in terms of sciences and medicine. Okay, so I was that kind of a person. But then there were some supernatural experiences which happened in my life. Okay, so that supernatural experiences gave me a soul shock, that how can this happen. So I was experiencing different kinds of energies. Okay, not only the positive energies but also the negative energies. So I was experiencing, it was like a complete spiritual realm opened up for me, and I did not know what was happening, and I was going like haywires. I was like completely going blank, and I was so confused, I was so anxious, I was going through so much chaos during that period. Okay, so during that period, because those things happened, I got exposed to those supernatural things. I got into a soul shock, because I was a completely different person, and when I experienced these kind of a things, so many questions started to rise within me. How can this happen? How can I see that? How can these beings or the energies can be, how, or whatever the movies or stories the people talk about these beings or things, or the things which have been talking about in the history, are they real, or how come I experiencing this? Like, I had so many questions because of my own experiences, personal experiences with certain kind of a things. Okay, with certain kind of a supernatural things, I had so many questions, and that questions and questions and questions led me to more and more confusion, led me to question my entire life. I was a completely different person, and after this experience I was like questioning everything in my life. So what is real, what is not? I was in that kind of a state where I was questioning everything. So how come whatever life I had led, what then, how it means to me now? Like, I had so many questions, because whatever life I had met, it was completely I have, whatever life I have come across during that point of time in 2020 till 2020, it completely got collapsed. Okay, everything was in my life was shattering. So everything in my life was shattering. I was like completely clueless, and I was like, I had to like rebuild myself again for so many years now, because of the things which happened in the 2020, because it changed my life complete 360 degrees, complete 360 degrees. So that phase was, during that time I did not know that, that phase was a pre-kundalini awakening phase or the dark night of soul phase, but it was a pre-kundalini awakening phase. Okay, so my soul already knows, there's nothing like a coincidence. Okay, it was already pre-planned that I'm going to awaken in this particular time period, in this particular day also. Okay, so it was already pre-planned that I am going to awaken on this particular day only, this particular year only, this particular month only. Okay, it was pre-decided by my soul. But at that time I was not knowing all these things, because I was so new to that. Okay, my higher self knows all these things, but for me it was completely new, it was completely chaotic, it was completely a very different or unknown kind of experience. Okay, so during that time period it was like a pre-kundalini awakening phase, and in that time period, in pre-kundalini awakening phase, I had also some kind of a symptoms. Okay, body symptoms also during kundalini awakening phase. Okay, I was getting different kinds of smells, my body was changing, my hunger was changing, my metabolism was changing, so many physiological changes were happening, so many mental level changes were happening, because at that time I was experiencing so much fear, because I'm saying something which is very supernatural. So obviously fear was there because of the things which you have experienced. For something, if you have experienced something for the very first time, there will be definitely a fear which will come. Okay, so there used to be so many emotions within me. Okay, and there used to be so many mental changes which were happening within me. Okay, my entire body and soul was, mind and body was completely occupied. Soul also, I was so busy in decoding and figuring out what is actually happening in my life. Okay, so that was like a pre-kundalini awakening phase. Okay, so then in that phase, in the pre-kundalini awakening phase only, I started to understand more about life. Okay, and I started to understand more about like divine beings and gods and goddesses and all those things. Like, oh, I just used to, before I used to think, oh, okay, these things are just, for in the photos or in the idols, but then it came to me so lively, in a very vivid way, in a very realistic way, that okay, I thought that, oh, I mean, it means that these things are real. I mean, the gods and goddesses and the stories which we listen about, the gods and goddesses, all these things is real. Nothing is fake. Whatever life I had led, okay, my entire life till that point, that was actually the fake life. But now I entered the original, real. Now I actually entered the reality. In that pre-Kundalini awakening phase, I used to understand all these things. Okay, and in that pre-Kundalini awakening phase, I did everything which can calm me down, which can help me to stay in balance, because at that point my life was completely chaotic. Okay, it was very, very dangerous period of my life, because it was very new, because it was unknown. That is the reason why it felt dangerous. Okay, now after so many years of awakening, now I look back and turn back and see, and very grateful for that phase, because that phase was horrible. Yes, it was horrible, it was unbearable, it was very, very painful, but in that time period only, I actually cleansed myself a lot. Okay, if that did not happen, my journey wouldn't have turned out this nice. Okay, because that phase happened, in that phase only, in the dark night of soul phase only, I have cleared a lot from within me. Okay, cleared a lot in the sense means I have cleared a lot from my mind, from my body, and from my soul. Okay, all the things which are not necessary for me, I've cleansed it all out there in my dark night of soul. In dark night of soul phase, I did a lot of hard work, lots and lots of hard work, even though I did not knew that what was happening with me. But then I did not give up. I pushed myself to find solutions. I pushed myself to know about what is happening with me. I pushed myself to actually figure out, to stay calm, to stay stable. Okay, I have, you know gave all my efforts in that dark night of soul phase. Really, literally, I worked a lot in that dark night of soul phase, even though I did not know that it was dark night of soul. But then with all my courage accumulated, I have worked so hard in that phase to figure out what was happening with me, to balance myself, to cleanse a lot of things. And I went to so many temples which can help me calm me, which can make me feel peaceful. Okay, and in that process only I came to know a lot about the divine, I came to a lot about myself, I came to know a lot about spirituality also. Okay, and I used to also listen to so many YouTube videos, and those videos I did not even search, they used to come spontaneously because my vibration and frequency changed. All the things, all the knowledge which I needed, I attracted that knowledge for me. Okay, because this pre-Kundalini awakening phase, I did not know what was Kundalini, I did not know what was chakras. Okay, so just before my awakening, I attracted those videos and those blogs or those channels which talked about the Kundalini awakening, so that my Kundalini was preparing me so that I don't get panicked. Okay, so that I had given so many shocks that one more other shock, maybe I won't be bearing so much of shocks, right? So my Kundalini gradually prepared me for that, so that I can have that knowledge, and so that I can have less shock like condition when I actually awaken. Okay, so it was that was a pre-Kundalini awakening phase which was happening with me. So when in during the pre-Kundalini awakening first phase, I was getting all the information and knowledge about the chakras and Kundalini. I unknowingly tapped into certain things and certain spiritual blogs and certain spiritual gurus. I unknowingly did that, not because I follow them or something like that. I don't now also, I don't like follow so many things or so many people, but then whatever I needed, it came through somebody. Somehow it came, somehow from someone, it just came. Okay, and it came for my own needs and uses, and it came to alert me that I am going to awaken. Okay, soon. So that was my entire pre-Kundalini awakening phase. In my next video, I'll talk about the Kundalini awakening journey. Okay, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sri Ramaraksha Sarva Jagat Raksha, Sri Mate Namaha.